Hello and welcome back to another episode of a Forgotten Generation podcast with your host Troy. And I'm here today with a very special guest who is an amazing activist in climate change and who is very much empowering. And she's called Milly. Hello, Milly.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Milly. So I have been an IWIL ambassador for 2 years now, and my social action focuses on climate change and also youth mental health. So I do a lot of workshops around the world about how big issues like climate change affects young people's mental health and what big organisations and government boards can do to tackle the issue of problems like eco-anxiety and eco-grief, and just sort of the ways young people are affected by turmoil, and how that issue can be tackled in a way that is healthy, and those issues can be taught to young people in a way that doesn't overwhelm them and reduces anxiety, because it's important that these children learn about the issues, but it's also important that it's not something they worry about. And so that's sort of what I do. I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Troy. And I hope that our little episode is really great to listen to. I can't wait.
Oh, that's amazing. It's so and empowering on what you've been up to and exactly who you are. It's just amazing. And so what is your youth social action? So you have touched about climate change and mental health. And is it like that because of youth social action?
Yeah, so I do my workshops. That's kind of the biggest thing I do. But then I also do a lot of posts on social media. That's kind of, at the minute, that's my main platform. And I used to run a school business. That's how my social action started, and how I sort of started looking into more topics and sort of branching more into my social action. That was my starting point. And now I'm actually looking at doing lots more new projects because I'm going into college, so I have a lot more free time. And I have also just been on a month in Kenya with Camps International, doing aid work over there. So that has been amazing. I got back on Friday, which was 2 days ago now. So I'm still very tired and a bit jet lagged, but I'm powering through. Um, but yeah, I do a lot of stuff, and it's just great to be on the podcast and have a new added layer, another way of promoting my voice. I'm very excited.
Wow. So empowering you are, honestly. And so are you part of any organizations that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So every month I go to my Young Rangers group. They are a group in North Yorkshire who help farmers do their job sustainably, and just sort of like they bring together a group of people who really care about the environment, and we do little tasks. So we'll build build different things, build walls for farmers, build hedgerows, always making sure that they are good for the environment. And there's actually one next week where we are going and working with an amazing fashion designer who uses recycled materials to make her clothing. So I'm super excited about that. And so that's one of the organizations I'm part of, which is an amazing one. And I highly encourage you to be part of if you're based in the North Yorkshire area, because they're just so amazing and they go all over Yorkshire and it's great. I'm also part of IWIL. Obviously, I've touched on this. And I have been for 2 years. And IWIL are an amazing organisation. IWIL is what has got me in touch with Troy, who is my best little buddy and has got me onto his podcast. And they are just so amazing. The people who run it are lovely, so encouraging, and they really care about youth voice and promoting that. they have an amazing petition actually called the Power of the Youth Charter. And when I'm doing my workshops to businesses, I highly emphasize the Power of the Youth Charter and its importance. I think it's such an amazing thing because when you sign the charter as a business or as a school, it is your way of representing your beliefs towards youth voice and showing young people that you care about their voice and that you want to put that into your company or into your school in a really healthy way, making sure their voice is heard and platformed as well as heard, because that's what's really important. And I always look for the Power of Youth Charter when I'm working with any company, because I think the Power of Youth Charter is such a great thing. So I highly encourage anyone listening or that has seen it before to go ahead and tell companies, tell their schools, tell government boards, youth boards, anyone to go and sign this charter, because it's a really, really great thing. That's part of the I Will movement, so that's great. The I Will movement is basically just a big group of young people who do amazing things. They have new people come into it every year as ambassadors. I think it's 82 people, I'm not sure. And then they also have champions, which are just even more amazing people on top of the ambassadors. And everyone is equally as important. And they have a little residential every year, and it is just simply amazing. Everyone gets to be part of it. I Will is just lovely. They've helped me get to so many places. And I Will is also what helped me do my 20 slides in 20 seconds presentation about last year now. And that was where I got into contact with Robin, who is an advisor for the Ernest Cook Trust. And I am now about to join their youth advisory board as sort of an environmental advocate, I suppose. And I'm super excited about that. The Ernest Cook Trust, I went to their Blue Influencer Scheme conference last year. No, it was this year actually, in March, where I did a talk, one of my workshops, about how we can engage the disengaged, is what it was called, proper professional. And that was amazing. I met so many lovely people there as well. And what they're doing at the minute is they are sending lots of people who are called blue influencers. And they did this last year with green influencers. This year it's called blue influencers because it's more focused on ocean life and marine conservation. And what they're doing is they're going to groups of, I think it's 10 young people, and they are encouraging those groups to start their own small business or charity based on blue environments. And so that is simply awesome. The whole of the Ernest Cook Trust thing is that the outdoors brighten up a life and can change a whole world, and that this needs to be emphasized into education and all sorts of stuff. And I completely agree with that. I think that the outdoors are so important and should definitely be integrated more into young people's lives, because I think as we continue on in the generations, we're definitely more attached to our phones. And I think people need to be getting outside, because that's so important for everything, really. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, I think. I am hoping to start my own organisation soon, which is exciting. And that is actually going to be quite similar to yours, Troy, but in a very, very different format, having a place for young people to come to, but obviously in my own special little way. So I'm excited to get that launched, super excited, and hopefully that will be done by the end of the year. It's just a very, very big task, and I'm sure you know of all people. So yeah, I think that's it. A lot of stuff, obviously, because I have been doing this for many years now. I was part of my school organisation, but unfortunately our school's shut down this year.
No.
So yeah, so that I'm not part of that anymore, and I wouldn't have been anyway because I've just left. But that was lovely, because that meant that I met so many amazing people from my school, And that was so close to home, and I'm still best friends with all those people. And it's lovely having a little eco group in your school. I completely recommend that, because I think it makes so many young people who are like ambitious about those sort of issues, to have that place within a school is so amazing. And you can get your green flag award. That's an amazing thing to do. It's so great for yourself and for the environment. You feel so achieved when you do that. I've also just done my gold DAV while I was in Kenya. I should
Wow.
probably talk more about Kenya. Yeah. I guess I'm part of Camps International now, because that's who I went with. And Camps International is a charity group who takes young people out on trips abroad, and they think trips abroad can change lives. And it certainly changed mine. Kenya was absolutely amazing. We went out for 4 weeks, and basically you just do loads of aid work everywhere. We climbed Mount Kenya, which was very, very difficult, but you do all sorts. We dewormed a load of goats. We went to schools and did refurbishing, and we taught English to the children, which was lovely. What else? We built a home for a lady who has just been recently widowed. We did a lot of animal conservation down Diani Beach and in Tsavo National Park. It was just awesome. And so if you are lucky enough to have the opportunity to go on one of those trips, I would highly recommend it, because they are just amazing, and you will meet so many gorgeous people. I have got so many friends from the trip, and I can't wait to see them over the rest of summer. And hopefully, I will be able to go again next year somewhere different, because I would really love to go.
Wow, wow, wow. Like, honestly, you've done so many amazing things. You're honestly, you're just incredible. And the way you've talked about the organizations that you work with and how much they inspired you to be who you are today is just absolutely incredible. And you should
Thank
be
you,
proud of
Troy.
yourself on the journey that you've gone through. And I'm also looking forward to this organization that you said you're going to be doing. I think it's brilliant.
I know.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That was so
Yeah, I've
amazing.
had it planned. I've had it planned for a very long time. But because of GCSEs and stuff, I got very, very caught up in all of that and sort of forgot about it for a while. I was playing around with like website makers and stuff, and then I decided to do something completely different. And so I've gone kind of down that route over summer, but obviously because I've been away with no contact with the outside world, I haven't been able to do anything. But now that I'm back, I'm proper working on it, and I'm very, very, very excited. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to see how it goes and for you to come back and tell us how it is going.
Absolutely.
Which is absolutely amazing. So well done on that. And has there any been challenges that you faced during this youth social action? Because you've done incredible things, but there must be a time where you've been like, oh, it's been hard, it's been difficult. Has there any been times where you felt like you wanted to give up on this?
There's been a lot of challenges. I know, especially from the beginning, when I started my little school business with my teacher, um, and we did like an online store. There were so many issues, so many hurdles to overcome, just with legal things, especially because it was based in the school. We really struggled getting a social media account. Obviously, these are more physical challenges within the business, but that was really difficult. And I've just mentioned some difficulties then, especially with time and working things around school and stuff. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but also mental challenges. They are huge, and half the reason why I advocate for what I do, because obviously lived experience is a big thing in the social action world, and the whole climate change mental health crisis is a really scary thing. And I know, especially within school, and the quality of climate education that you get nowadays, I won't go too deep into that, but I think the people that know, um, you know, that can really take a toll on you. And there has been so many times where I have been terrified about what is going to happen, and almost exhausted, frustrated at governments for not doing what we're so clearly telling them to do, because they have this thing where they don't really enjoy listening to young people. And just, it's really hard sometimes. You get burnt out from doing all the work. Sometimes, especially you, Troy, because you do a hell of a lot. You just need to take a break. Like, it's really difficult. It's a big thing. And a lot of the time, and I say this a lot, people almost feel guilty because there's things going on in the world and they feel like they can't control it, but they should be doing something to control it. And a lot of the time, there isn't really anything you can do. And at the same time, I know a lot of people feel guilty because they're more privileged than some people and almost don't take advantage of those privileges in regards to spreading awareness, etc. And just, anxiety, like that's a whole issue in itself, and it's so big nowadays and kind of ignored. I just think there's so many hurdles that young people can face, and it's so great what you're doing because you're almost giving them a space where they can breathe and remind themselves that it's okay, and there's people like doing loads, and that's not a bad thing. Like a lot of the time, and I put so much emphasis in this on what I do, it's the small things that make the biggest difference. Just putting the rubbish in the right bin, things like that. It's really complicated. Even the message, you just handed Future Leaders, I'm not sure who she is, but Sarah is lovely. And the message she sent the other day to Eloise was lovely. The one about her one-page profile and telling her, don't worry about not being able to attend the meeting. It's really important you take care of yourself and relax. I loved that because that is exactly what young people doing this sort of stuff, and just young people in general, need to be told all the time, because I think they feel so much pressure to be places and doing things and going to certain, conferences and protests. And sometimes it's a lot, especially when it's a real world issue that they're trying to solve and that is going on consistently. I think just taking that space and, having a walk, having a bath, taking a week off your phone, away from social media, away from the news, I think they need to be emphasized, as well as obviously young people who aren't as engaged, finding different ways to help them get engaged without worrying them. That's super important as well. And my entire workshop strategy is what that is built around, really, is making sure that every sort of young person in today's society is able and willing and happy to do the same sort of work we do, and that everyone is given that opportunity to have a voice. And yeah, I just think, the challenges are there, and especially for me as well. But of course, I've found ways to overcome them. So now I'm just trying to help other people do the same.
Wow, I absolutely honestly agreed on what you said actually about that, about actually just taking time to rest, taking time to chill out for a bit, because obviously everyone is doing different things and it's okay to not do that certain thing, maybe like attend an event or something, because you do need that time to relax. Have that time, because I think us young people want to do everything. We want to be able to make that change, but in fact, everyone's making that change together. It's not just that one person. Everyone's coming together in working out ways to make the world a better place, to make things better in the climate world, and to make sure that things are more better in schools, and because then things are better in the streets to make it more safer. So everyone as young people are working together, and it shouldn't be just one person.
Yeah, it's so important, so important. And I think probably most of the people you talk to on this podcast are working on social media or even in real life or whatever it is that they do to make sure that message is promoted. Because no matter what sort of social action you're doing, it goes for everyone, really. And even if you're not doing social action, it's still the same. The issues are still there, and it can be very overwhelming at times. And it's important to make sure you realize that, you are still human and you can't do everything. There's some things that are out of your control, completely. And, you know, you've just got to do as much as you can and leave it at that. Everyone has their limits. I think that's important to recognize that everyone has a point and they're all very different. And that's not something to be ashamed of at all.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. And to the listeners listening to this episode, just look after yourself, take time for yourself, and not feel like you need to rush or be stressed about something that maybe is out of your control, but actually know that maybe by resting it can help. Maybe by having that time away can actually recharge your batteries, and then you can come back feeling more positive.
Yeah, more able to spread the message as well. Because if um that's what you're so ambitious to do, is to, you know, spread awareness or do what you're doing. I'm not sure what that is, whatever that is. It's really important to take that time away so that you can do it to the best of your ability. And you're not doing it all with your whole heart in it, and it's almost half-hearted because you're so exhausted. It's so important that you just take that breather and you don't worry about what other people are doing, and you don't compare yourself, because with things like this, it's really not what you do, you know, it's your own work, your own ambitions and hobbies, and, you know, it's what you care about. And so you need to make sure you're looking after yourself to be able to do that. It's so important.
It's absolutely so important. You're absolutely right on that. It's so important to anyone listening. Just look after yourself and take care of yourself, and just know that you're not alone, as everyone else is doing what you're doing and really wanting to make that big impact like you. So thank you so much for explaining that and really telling me about other barriers that you face as a young person taking youth social action. What do you think are the issues that young people are facing, and what should the government do and professionals to make it more better for young people?
So this is something I talk about quite a lot, which is why it's such a difficult question for me, because there's so much I could say. I could go on for hours about this, because it's what I do. But there's a lot of issues, I think, and I think the main one is that young people nowadays really want to do something, because we are a generation of people who are so ambitious and so fueled to go and, you know, make a difference. But I think a lot of the time it's either pressure put on to young people by the older generations to do these things which stops them, or it's the fact that they don't have a space to be able to go to do this, and so they feel like, you know, they can't make that difference. I also think that goes both ways, and I think nowadays there is sort of becoming more and more of an emphasis on young people, which is really great, and, you know, it's an amazing thing. But I do think older generations still want to do things, and, you know, I think we need to make sure we're focusing on them as well, but less the big companies and the governments. They need to be, you know, focusing on everyone really, but because of that lack of youth coverage, it's important that that happens and that there's inclusivity. You know, we're putting subtitles on videos, making sure everyone is able to access everything. That's really important because we don't want anyone feeling left out. But it, you know, it's a big thing. I think we need to make sure that if we want to involve young people in businesses or in government decisions, that should be taken very literally, and, you know, they should be put in that youth board and on the front cover of your website. I always emphasize this because I think if young people see that companies are using young people to influence decisions and that that's advertised, then that's going to encourage even more young people to go and make those decisions, talk to those companies, etc. I think a lot of the time, and this is what's so horrible, is that young people's ideas are taken on board and then used by the older generation and then advertised as their own ideas. They don't actually mention that young people have been involved in that process. And of course, it's great because the young people's ideas have been acknowledged. but I think it would be even better if the young person's idea could be acknowledged and acknowledged as their own, so that everyone else can see this happening, because this is why me and you, Troy, are doing what we're doing. Those young people aren't acknowledged enough. And that might just be because we're not seeing it. There might be those young people being acknowledged, but because we're not seeing it, we're not aware of that. And so I think it's so important that young people are really advertised in the decision-making world. I also think in regards to politics, the voting age should be lowered to 16. I turned 16 in a week, and I was very, very, very on top of the general election. And I know you were too. I know you did a little radio moment. I just think, of course there's those people that wouldn't be as interested, but there's no telling that they would vote anyway. I think, the whole was it Make an X movement was absolutely amazing. They got so many young people to vote, and that was so great, because that's what this general election really needed, was the younger generation voting. They did so well. They were the people I think that I saw doing the most, but I'm sure there was many other movements that did just amazing things. But yeah, I think lowering the voting age to 16 would be a very, very big move in the youth voice world, because there are so many people my age who are interested in that sort of thing and would totally go up there and vote and deserve an opinion. It is our future, and so the decisions that these people are making are going to ultimately affect our lives. And so I think there's no reason why we shouldn't have a right to vote. So many of us want to. I think I was talking about the general election more than my parents were, and I didn't get a say in what they voted for. So, I would have liked my own. Thank you very much. I think, and so many of my friends as well, we had some real heated conversations going on around that time about who we would vote for and stuff. And I think so many young people did. And so that would be really, really great. Yeah. But just making sure young people are involved in those companies. They're signing things like the Power of Youth Charter, and that the young people being involved in those companies, they are listened to and they're helped. Burnout exists. We were just talking about this. Making sure they have a place to go if it gets too much. Making sure that the way they're taught their information is specific and tailored towards their audience. Making sure it's not too overwhelming. I always talk about the global goals in my workshops and how great they are at putting all the world's issues into boxes. Because I think when a young person is taught all these world issues in one sitting, it can become a hell of a lot to take in. And, they can feel either extremely responsible or like there's absolutely nothing they can do and that the world is helpless. But it's not. And by just teaching them something like no poverty, as big as an issue as that is, it almost targets one specific problem and makes it easier for them to deal with. And then they can work on that no poverty box and move to life on land or gender equality. And then they're just kind of, they're covering all the boxes without feeling like it's too much or it's just, freaking them out. I think that's something I do a lot. Even if one specific young person has a super interest in one specific issue, then they can focus on that, and it almost becomes kind of exciting for them to do, thinking about new ideas to fix things and stuff. That's so great. I just think a lot of it is education and the way it's taught to young people and the way that businesses advertise young people. I think
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things they can do, and I think we definitely need to have more of a voice. and it's getting better, which is amazing.
It is absolutely, absolutely is. Just very like very, very much. And is there actually one word to say to a young person wanting to take part in youth social action? So to sum up one word to say to them to be part of it.
I'm gonna use two words, and I'm gonna say do it.
Love it.
Because when I do interviews with young people, of course, and every single young person I've asked that question to has said do it. And I can't even acknowledge how many times I have said that exact sentence to everyone I have been interviewed by or interviewed. And do it is such a big message, because there's so many things in that. Do it because it needs doing. Someone's got to do it. Too often, young people say, what's the point of me doing it? There's already so many people doing it. I can't make a difference. But what they don't realize is that they can. And if everyone had that attitude, nobody would be doing it. Of course, if you have things going on, don't do it. Like, give yourself a break. I don't want that to make you feel any sort of way. But doing it opens you up to so many great opportunities. I got to go to Kenya this year, and as horrible as it was seeing all those people in those situations, it was so lovely to be able to help and see the difference we had made. It's such a great feeling, being able to see and recognize the differences you are making. The amount of people that have messaged and said, Milly, you really, really helped me. Like, I was really struggling. I was so burnt out, and you just talking to you has made me, realize that I can have a break, and that the world isn't going to crumble to pieces if I do. And that's the most amazing, rewarding feeling in the entire world, because it's like you've actually helped. And you will experience that if you start to do this thing. And even if you don't at the beginning, it will come because you're making that difference. And also do it because you're going to meet people who are so like-minded and so down to earth and lovely, and really, really absorbed by their social action. Social action really changes a person, and it really makes you who you are. And the people you meet are going to be so similar to you, and so ambitious and determined and incredibly independent. It's just so worth doing, because you're going to have some lovely new friends and lovely new people that are going to surround you and just make you feel so much more positive. And the best thing is, they understand as well those issues like burnout. They understand what you're going through and will be there for you to support you through it all. And you can work with them on new exciting projects, like me and Troy doing this podcast episode. We wouldn't have been there if neither of us started. So I just recommend it highly, and so does everyone else doing social action. Clearly, just do it. That's what I say.
I love the message. I love the empowering message that you have just said about, do it, and just really telling, like, actually trying to tell young people about, you, because you can do it when you put your mind to it. And so you'll get opportunities, which is amazing. Like, you're just honestly incredible. You've done so many amazing things. You should be proud of yourself, honestly, because I'm proud of you. And I really hope young people who are listening, and professionals and organizations and practitioners who are listening to this episode can see the empowerment in what you've said today. The empowerment of
Yeah,
why, because why young people should have a voice, and why professionals and the decision makers should work with young people together in making things a better place.
absolutely. And they should be proud of themselves as well, because clearly they are in the right place if they are listening to Milly and Troy talk for about an hour and a half about how to change the world. And they should be proud, because that is a big step in the right direction. That means you're going to go places.
It so is. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Thank you ever so much for coming on to this podcast today, and really telling your voice is really amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Troy. It's been great.
Please support the podcast by subscribing and rating the podcast. I'd love to hear what you like and what could be better for future episodes. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram and I will .troy, and also on X I will _Troy. Tune in to next week's episode.